Welcome, my fellow citizens. My name is Michael Hummert, and thank you for joining me at Think It Through, Montana. We've got a lot to talk about, so let's get after it. Let me explain a few things about me. I am a Realist Liberal Democrat. That statement has a definitive meaning. If I don't define it for you, you may interpret the term based on your own experiences and how you have heard the term used in the past. Let's start with realist. Whether you are talking about international or national politics, Democrat or Republican parties, or personal politics, the realist assumes nations, parties, and people will act in a manner that will promote their self-interest. Why is this important to you? It explains why most of our politicians act in such unpredictable ways. Simply put, we don't know their true motivation since they are inherently dishonest. They spend millions of dollars on advisors and personal training so they can speak in general terms. By speaking in this manner, people will paint whatever their personal thoughts are onto what the politician has said and assume that's what they meant. Let me give you an example of this. In Jon Tester's re-election ad, he has said, "I'm defending our way of life." He doesn't define what our way of life is. He leaves that up to you to fill in. He really hasn't told you anything. Instead, his handlers created a cinematic backdrop of his way of life on his third-generational farm. Most of us don't live on a farm. We live in small cities and towns spread out through the entire state of Montana. So tell me, John, leaving the southern border completely open for the last 3 years, is that how you're protecting our way of life? In 2011, when you and every Senate Democrat voted no to a balanced budget amendment, apparently so the Republican-controlled Senate wouldn't get credit for saving our country, were you protecting our way of life, John, or protecting your way of life? Your job is not pandering to the people of Montana. It is to be one of 100 senators charged with the duties of running the planet's largest economy. And our country, the United States of America. Imagine the security our children would have right now if you had voted for our country instead of supporting the Democrat Party. Imagine the security throughout the world having a reserve currency that is stable and has not been debased by excessive spending. I don't have the time to be your standard politician. I wrote every word of this and I stand behind it. I understand that most people are too busy with their lives to know what they need in relationship to their government. Let me just forewarn the vocal 5% that likes to call people names and make accusations that are unfounded. I will not bother defending myself against your claims of some type of phobia or racism. Let me assure you, I do not have any irrational fears of people. I do have a very rational fear of that small minority of people that call themselves progressive. The vocal 5% that act in a totalitarian manner. The people that tell us what we should think and what we can say. They aren't liberal at all. It would seem to me these people infect both the Democrat Party and the Republican Party. They have different names, but their goals are the same, to control us with their words, while they have the freedom to say what they wish. Make no mistake, they are dangerous to our country and our way of life. Let me talk to you about what a liberal means. A word we have heard so many times and not bothered to look up the definition. In the political context of liberal, it means a political movement defined by individual rights, democracy, the rule of law, economic and social freedoms, limited government intervention in the economy, protection of civil liberties, and a belief in a potential for international cooperation to achieve common goals. I do not think that last statement means one world global order. The next time you hear one of the vocal 5% say Progressive Liberal Democrat, correct them. Their new name is Progressive Totalitarian Democrat. Progressive, a person advocating or implementing social reform. Totalitarian, a system of government that is centralized and requires complete subservience to the state. There's nothing liberal about what these people stand for any longer. I would also like to define democracy. Democracy is a government by the eligible members of a population that are governed typically through elected representatives. Let's define Democrat while we're at it. A Democrat is a person who supports democracy as a form of government, political equality, representation, and government accountability to the people. A Democrat is a person who stands up for the rule of law, has the belief that the government is supposed to be at the will of the people, which is only supported by fair and transparent elections. Elected representatives are responsible to the people to act with honesty and integrity. It's not supposed to be a popularity contest. People treat politics like a football game. They root for their favorite teams regardless of the mistakes made on the field. They come back week after week hoping for a better outcome while using the same players and strategies. This type of loyalty for your hometown team is commendable. There's no price your neighbor must pay when you're incorrect on the outcome of the game. That's not the case in politics. Your vote matters. Your decisions matter. And you have a responsibility as a citizen to know what you're voting for, and all too many people have shirked those duties. If you only have time in your busy life to find out what one candidate actually stands for, then vote that candidate on the ballot. Don't just assume everybody else, because they have an R or a D behind their name, stands for the same thing. If you only vote for one office on that ballot, and you know what that person stands for, then you've done your duty as a citizen. Leave the rest blank and go watch a football game. Now that you know me a little better, I can share my exciting news with you. On June 4th, 2024, Montana holds their primary to select the candidates that will represent the major parties. I am challenging Jon Tester in the primary for Montana's United States Senate seat. I cannot do this alone. I will need everybody in Montana to help me succeed in retiring Jon Tester. He has been in Washington, D.C. for 3 terms, 18 years, and Jon thinks he should have a 4th term, 6 more years. If we do not stop him in the primary, the odds are in his favor that he will succeed in getting a 4th term. Why do I think I have what it takes to unseat Jon Tester? 2 reasons. The first reason is that I made and posted this video on every electronic avenue I had available to me, knowing exactly what was coming my way for doing so. And secondly, I pledge to you at this very moment my honesty, my integrity, and my word that I will never lie to you. I do not have the answer for everything, and I will not be correct on everything. I will tell you what I think and why I think it. And when I get better information and have to change my opinion, I will stop what I'm doing and come right here and explain myself to you. My vision for our country is a balanced budget amendment, an age limit amendment, and a term limit amendment to our Constitution. This will control our government for eternity. Every election cycle, I hear politicians stand up and say, "This is the most critical election of our lives." Well, I think we finally approached that point. Our country is more than $34 trillion in debt. Jon Tester took office in 2007. We had a $4.6 trillion national debt. He and his cronies in Congress have spent $30 trillion more than our tax receipts. Understand that money was borrowed in your great-grandchildren's names and wasted. The Congressional Budget Office has projected a $3 trillion shortfall for this fiscal year ending this October. That means we will add $3 trillion to our national debt this year, if nothing else happens. We will borrow 10, maybe 12% of the entire gross domestic product, that's everything our country produces, just to support this year's excessive spending. I do not think it's possible to overstate how grave the situation has become. If we do not do something immediately, it is only a matter of time before we will enter into a death spiral that will be unstoppable. Our elected leaders have put us into this position. It is impossible to imagine they will have the courage it takes to get us out of this situation. This year, we have $7 trillion of national debt bonds that will mature and have to be paid. We do not have $7 trillion to pay the debt. Therefore, we will have to resell that $7 trillion on the bond market at a higher interest rate. We also have $3 trillion of new debt that will have to be financed. Essentially, this puts the bond market in control of our economy and your future. You can't expect people that aren't even talking about the problem to acknowledge it and fix it. I took this directly off of Jon Tester's website, and I quote, "The Senate Appropriation Committee is one of the most influential committees in Congress. It ultimately decides where the government spends taxpayer money and how much it spends. Jon Tester brings the Montana values of accountability, responsibility, and transparency to his work on the committee, balancing smart investments in our nation with the need to cut wasteful spending." End quote. I just want to be clear, so let me say this about Montana values. They are in our Constitution. We have a balanced budget, and we have term limits. I will let you draw your conclusion about Jon's honesty and integrity. As I stated, I can't do this without your help. This is not a Democrat problem. This is not a Republican problem. This is everybody's problem. Every one of us. We have to come together on this one. And I would suggest that if we put our petty differences aside and actually take stock in what we think, we would find out we are not so far apart. There is no way any citizen in this country that cares about our culture and the well-being of our children can support having an open border. Out-of-control spending by Congress, out-of-touch politicians spending their entire life in Congress, and people so old that their cognitive ability has obviously declined, yet they are not allowed to retire because their corporate owners have spent so much money to get them there. There is no one who can possibly think that this is not an existential threat to our very existence as a country. For the very vocal 5% of young adults on college campuses, let me assure you, when the mob comes for your college to burn it down, they will not care what pronouns you prefer. It's time to start examining why you think what you think. There's a reason why the entire country pays attention to college campuses. This is where social movements start. Watch this video and share it with everybody. Start a new movement that will provide hope for the entire world. But never forget, your crushing student debt will be the least of your worries if the bond market does not continue to purchase our debt as a nation. All that diligent work that you have put into your education will be wasted if there's no jobs to be had. We must rally as a nation and make our voices heard. Set aside these petty differences that have been created by the vocal 5% to keep us divided. We need to join forces and demand our government moves forward with solving this problem. It is the most important issue of our life. If you made it this far, thanks for sticking with me. I don't want your money, but I may need a few bucks. You can donate down below or go to the website, Mike from Montana. You can email me at Montana for Mike. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Watch this video with someone and start a conversation. Most importantly, send this video to everyone you know. It's our only hope. Leave a message of encouragement. I could use it. We're all in this together, and I need you to have my back just like I'm going to have your back. See you in the next video. We're going to talk about immigration. That'll get everybody excited. Don't accept the status quo. Question everything, including me. My name is Michael Hummert, the next United States Senator from the state of Montana. Thank you.